Welcome to today's Explainer. Today, we're diving into an absolutely fascinating mystery about a forgotten community hero, and we're going to learn exactly how history actually gets uncovered. We so often think of history as something super distant, right? Like it's just this dry collection of dates, famous leaders, and massive global events from centuries ago. But today, we're exploring a story that proves history is literally happening right in our own backyards. And the craziest part? It's usually shaped by people whose names never even make it into the big textbooks. So, middle schooler Emma Carter completely shifted this perspective when she famously said, "People don't just disappear from history." Now, Emma wasn't your average student. She absolutely loved history. While most of her classmates saw it as just boring memorization, she'd look at old buildings and faded photographs and see hidden stories just waiting to be told. Her stubborn refusal to accept that a real local hero could just vanish into thin air, well, that set the stage for an incredible investigation.
Let's kick things off with Section 1, the Lost History Project.
Our journey begins at Jefferson Middle School on a pretty typical Monday morning. Emma's teacher, Mr. Wilson, brings out this dusty wooden box and assigns what he calls the Lost History Project. The challenge? Find a real, forgotten story from their very own town. And his instructions were crystal clear. It couldn't just be any old story, it had to be a forgotten person, an old building, or a significant event that had completely slipped from the public's memory. Emma, along with her best friends Jake and Sophia, immediately jumped at the chance to play historical detectives.
Now, the pivotal year for this whole investigation turns out to be 1952. That is the year Emma and her friends stumbled upon a tiny, overlooked newspaper article about a woman named Sarah Mitchell. The article mentioned that Sarah had helped build the town's very first community center, and she organized programs for hundreds of local families. But here is the massive mystery. After 1952, Sarah Mitchell completely vanished from the public records. Absolutely nothing else was written about her. Jake thought, well, maybe she was just forgotten. But like Emma said, people don't just disappear.
Moving right along to Section 2, Uncovering the Past. So, how exactly do you find someone who has essentially been erased by time? Well, their process was strictly chronological, and honestly, it required some serious persistence. They didn't just hop on the internet. They started on Tuesday with a grueling search through library newspapers, literally flipping through dusty old records. By the very next day, they escalated things to the local historical museum, where they met the director, Mrs. Thompson. She hadn't heard the name Sarah Mitchell in years, but she led them straight to the back storage rooms to dig deeper. And eventually, this whole timeline stretched out over weeks as they began conducting actual face-to-face interviews with residents. The real key to their search was the town archive. Now, an archive isn't just some dusty storage room. It is literally the memory bank of a civilization, or in this case, a town. It's where the raw, unfiltered data of human lives, the letters, the photographs, the legal documents are kept safe. For Emma and her crew, the museum's archive was the ultimate gateway to unlocking Sarah's past. Deep in that archive, after searching for what felt like forever, they uncovered this faded photograph of the newly built community center. There were dozens of volunteers in the picture, but standing right there, front and center, was Sarah Mitchell. And get this, on the back of that photograph, someone had scribbled an incredible inscription: "The woman who brought our town together." When Jake asked why such an obviously important woman was forgotten, Mrs. Thompson gave them a really profound answer. She said that sometimes history focuses so much on the famous folks that it completely forgets the ordinary people who actually made a difference.
All right, that brings us to Section 3, the Forgotten Hero.
As Emma, Jake, and Sophia spent weeks interviewing the older residents, the true, massive scale of Sarah's impact really began to emerge. They learned she organized events and helped families find jobs during really difficult times, directly serving her community. But community here meant so much more than just houses located near each other, right? It was the actual web of relationships and mutual support that Sarah Mitchell spent her entire life building. Slowly, the students realized she had dedicated everything to helping others, even though her story had almost vanished. The absolute breakthrough came when Emma discovered a box of deeply personal letters in the town archive. We're not talking official government documents here. These were written by the actual families Sarah had helped. One super emotional thank you note read, "Thank you for helping us when we had nowhere to go. You gave us hope when we needed it most." Just imagine being a family with nowhere to turn and someone steps up to give you hope. This primary source document provides such a direct, powerful window into exactly who Sarah was. Another letter appraised Sarah by saying,
Because of your kindness, our children had a better future. Emma was just incredibly moved reading these. It suddenly wasn't just about building a brick-and-mortar community center anymore. It was about the profound generational impact of kindness. Sarah Mitchell literally altered the trajectory of children's lives in that town.
Next up is Section 4, Making History Matter. So all that research, the long hours in the archives, and those emotional interviews all led to the day of the final presentation. Emma stepped right up onto that auditorium stage and brilliantly contrasted macro-level history, presidents, wars, and big dates, with micro-level history, the ordinary people making extraordinary differences. She told the silent auditorium all about the community center, the families Sarah helped, and those forgotten letters. Even the teachers and parents in the audience were completely stunned to learn about a real-life hero hidden right in their own town. And the impact of Emma's project definitely didn't stop at the classroom door. A few weeks later, the town council was so incredibly moved by Emma's presentation that they decided to officially honor Sarah's contributions. They placed a permanent plaque outside the very community centers Sarah helped build. The inscription, it read, "In memory of Sarah Mitchell, whose dedication and kindness helped build a stronger community for future generations." Because of Emma's hard work, Sarah Mitchell is firmly written back into the history of the town, ensuring she is never, ever forgotten again.
Okay, let's wrap our heads around this in Section 5, Core Lessons and Vocabulary.
Zooming out from this explainer for a second, let's look at the framework of this discovery. We've got Emma, whose passion sparked the whole search. Jake and Sophia, who represent the teamwork required to really sift through history. Mr. Wilson, acting as the catalyst who assigned the project in the first place. And of course, Sarah Mitchell, as the focal point. It's kind of beautiful when you think about it. It takes a network of curious people today to uncover the network of helpful people from the past. Ultimately, Sarah Mitchell's life was defined by 3 core traits: her contribution to building the center through her time and boundless energy, her ability to inspire future generations, because as Emma realized, history is really about remembering people whose actions motivate us today, and finally, her unwavering dedication, that strong commitment to helping families in her town find jobs and hope over the course of her entire life. The whole journey Emma went on really boils down to this fundamental moral lesson. History isn't just a VIP club for the globally famous. Every single person has the capacity to shift the course of their community. Those heartfelt letters Emma found in the archive proved, without a doubt, that small acts of kindness ripple outward, affecting children and future generations long, long after the act itself is done.
Finally, let's look at Section 6, Discussion Questions.
Now I want to turn this over to you. Think about your own town for a second. Why could someone so important just fade from memory? As Mrs. Thompson noted earlier, society just tends to focus way too heavily on famous national figures. But why does local history matter just as much? Well, because it's the history of your streets, it's your buildings, and it's the direct foundation of the community you are living in right now. It gives us a real sense of place and belonging. Reflect on what Emma learned during her project, and ask yourself, what truly makes someone a hero in their community? Does it require a cape, $1 million? Or does it just require organizing events, helping a neighbor find a job, or simply offering a hand when someone literally has nowhere else to go? Sarah Mitchell was completely ordinary, but her impact was undeniably heroic. I want to leave you with this final provocative thought. If Mr. Wilson handed you that dusty wooden box today, what hidden stories are waiting to be uncovered right in your own backyard? Is there an old building you walk past every single day? Maybe a name on a street sign that you just don't recognize? History is all around us, folks. It is just waiting for someone curious enough to look into the archives. Thank you so much for joining me on this explainer, and I really hope it inspires you to do a little digging of your own.